Shopify's point of sale system helps you sell at every stage of your business. Need a fast and secure way to take payments in person? We've got you covered. How about card readers you can rely on anywhere you sell?
Thanks. Have a good one.
Yep, that too. Want one place to manage all your online and in-person sales? That's kind of our thing. Wherever you sell, businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 a month trial at shopify.com/Spotify. Shopify.com/Spotify.
Welcome to the Dr. Raj Podcast with Dr. Raj Dasgupta, a show all about educating patients, students, and aspiring doctors about better patient care. Dr. Raj is a quadruple board-certified physician and associate professor at the University of Southern California. He was a co-host of the TNT series Chasing the Cure with Ann Curry, as well as a regular on the TV show The Doctors. And now, here's our show.
Okay. Hi. I hope we're recording. This is the official first podcast for the Dr. Raj Show. And of course, I love that you're smiling because I can see you, though we're only doing audio for this one, but I always have a big smile on my face. And I'm very excited that I finally have a podcast after all these years. And I was thinking about who would be my first guest. So I may be a little all over the place in the beginning because should I talk about the show? Should I interview the guests? It's really hard to say. So we'll kind of go through this together. But the Dr. Raj show, this is the first one, is going to be, number one, fun. And number two, it's going to be talking about medical topics that are in society that are, I feel, important to bring to the forefront. And at the same time, we just want to actually get real perspective, whether it be from doctors, residents, patients, just people out there. So I want to be down to earth and fun and informative, which I hope is what I convey, because that's what I believe in. So back now to my guest. So I always thought when you have a first show is that like, a first comic book. So let's say you're reading Spider-Man. Everyone wants to know what is the origin of Spider-Man per se. So I thought we'll have a good origin podcast of how I got to become Dr. Raj and do one of the wonderful things to get a chance to do. And a big part of that was actually the person I'm going to be interviewing today. And her name is going to be Cassandra Hein, who is actually the first person when I did a small stint on the TV show, The Doctors. I got this Hollywood bug that bit me that wanted me to go back on again and do this and that. And Cassandra has always believed in me. She came and worked with me multiple times to help me develop my brand and how to reach people, both medical and non-medical. So we have a great story together. So I wanted Cassandra to be my first guest. She usually interviews me, so this is totally weird. I'm interviewing her, but once again, I'm talking too much. So let me introduce Cassandra.
Thank you. This is fun. I know. It's funny too, because, through all the years that we have been working together, we really haven't really done much on camera together until COVID-19 started happening. And I thought it was an interesting time. And I was like, we need to start talking about this. And so we started doing interviews together, and that kind of became a normal thing. But yes, we have been working together for a long time. It's been super fun. When I first met you, Dr. Raj, you were actually, it was a referral through a friend who, I'm in the industry. I help talent get on air and, be on TV and help them with their confidence on camera. And, we kind of had a meeting and I'm like, well, what do you want to accomplish? And you're like, you're just like want it all, you're ready to do whatever comes your way. So, I've always appreciated that passion. And I think that, it's been definitely a good team that we've created through the years, and we have multiple projects going on. So I couldn't be happier to be here.
And let's be honest, I think it's been almost 7 years we've been friends. It's almost 7 years. And now that you mentioned the mutual friend, I'll name drop. It was Aaron.
Yeah.
And it was so funny that you're totally right. I mean, I just had a blank moment right there. You came over, you met me at USC. And you're right. You asked, what did I want to do? And I mean, just like this podcast, I couldn't shut up. I was telling you all the things I wanted to do. And you made my first website. And I remember you kind of trying to piece together my personality with what you thought would work well. And our website had a Star Wars feel to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore, so don't go looking for it. But we had like almost a Star Wars website. And of course, that's the big geek in me. I'm like, yes, best website ever. And then I remember as we started getting more professional and getting more offers and opportunities, you called me up and you're like, yeah, we need to change that website.
It was a little too trekky, a little too dark.
Yeah.
It's like,
we should have kept that.
People expect like the light and the brightness of like the, the medical branding and, but also the authenticity of that I appreciate that because I love taking talent that I work with and really going like, okay, they're a regular doctor, but they're really fun. Like Dr. Raj, you have your own personality. Like you want to really highlight what that authenticity is and allow you to be it, but then also highlight what you can do that may be a little bit more mainstream, that not every doctor is that way.
And I think that's the hard part because you have lots of clientele in different parts of medicine, and it's that balance between, what you need to be to an extent to be marketable, sellable, whatever the right word is. But at the same time, keeping your own personality, and that's really, really hard. And that's one of my little pearls if someone's watching today who wants to do media and TV and whatever it is. It's really hard to be yourself because it's easy to be yourself when you already are marketable. But in the beginning, it's hard. So I think
you kind of have to relearn how to be yourself on camera.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like allow yourself to kind of like be yourself, and instead of feeling like, oh, all the pressure is on me, and and now I have to deliver. But it's like, no, the reason why people love learning from you is because it is so easy to understand, and it is so fun. It's a fun experience for your students. And I think that goes a long way,
And I think that's why we teamed up and we work so well together is because you let me be me, even though you roll your eyes sometimes when I do things, but it's so far worked great. And I think that's what you need is to find that person out there that complements you well. And with that being said, I want everyone to know we just don't do media together. We do a lot of medical things together, which I kind of, it's my fault. I brought you in my world. I want you to stay there because how many medical videos have we filmed together? And it's not because I want to plug anything, but I think I'm so proud that we actually have our own medical company to help people really succeed, become the best doctors. And I don't want to sell it short by saying it's a board review because it's so much more than that. But I think the education we do and how you actually enjoy doing it, I think makes me so happy,
Yeah, well, yeah. And just to let everybody know that is listening, we have been working on a lot of content together. And this most recent one that we're doing, we kind of, we regrouped during COVID. I was not able to produce and direct the stuff that I usually was able to. I had to not go to New York and, for a pilot that I was directing, not do a bunch of other things. And so we had a great idea was, and I had already been kind of pivoting the business because Dr. Raj has two platforms. You've got the Beyond the Pearls, and that's for the student, that's for the education. And then you have like the, Dr. Raj entertainment brand, and you're great on camera, but that's like kind of to the consumer, And so we've been cultivating both of these platforms for some time. And so the Beyond the Pearls platform ended up, I've been wanting to, rebrand everything, not rebrand in a sense, but really bring it to the next level. And so I've been putting a lot of energy into the marketing and then creating a quiz and then being able to take all that feedback and really create a course around the subject matters that are, your students and the people that learn from you, your residents and everything. Like we really heard their feedback and created something that reflects how they can understand a course that, not just a course, but kind of a library of information that's integrated that really can help people these doctors to understand these different subject matters in a way that integrates so seamlessly. And that's what you're so talented at.
And you know what's amazing? You read that off a script. You just came up with that. It almost sounds a little scripted, but that was awesome. but I was going to say what I do love about us in that exact project is that we just didn't target, people in the United States. I am so happy to work with my USC students and everyone I interact with. But it makes me happy that you actually share the passion to help people in a lot of foreign countries that are millions of miles away from us. And you, like I said, every time I go to my Facebook now, I have people in countries I don't even know about that are saying, hey, I took the quiz, I know what to do. And it just makes me really happy that because of you, the message I wanted to tell everyone is not just stuck here in Southern California, but I'm telling you, it's in Asia, it's in Africa, it's in Europe. It's crazy. So
well, yeah, and to piggyback off of what you're saying,
yeah.
I've been surveying people that are wanting to become doctors in the United States. The ones that are really like, they find you and then they're so inspired by what you kind of put out there that they have been doing the surveys that we've been putting out there. And so reading these surveys of what they're going through, you are loved by them. Let me just
oh man.
They're like, Dr. Raj is so easy. A lot of these people are already doctors in their home countries.
They are.
So they just need to learn how to pass the boards here. And so I think what your unique ability is to really educate people that are kind of there already, and they're your peer. You're treating them like peers as opposed to students that, you're the professor, you're the student. You feel like that there's like this level playing field, and that you're just giving your best because you do have passion to educate these people, but they also really appreciate it because you're a friendly face that's not you're not treating them any lower. Not saying that other teachers do, but you know what I'm saying? That's a big deal to them.
And I think it's because of the fact that, when I do these board review classes and I'm actually in front of the class and I teach them, I look into the audience and I would see a man or woman who's older than me, who looks wiser than me. And I'm teaching them to memorize this word or learn this mnemonic and part of me just wants to say, hey, share your knowledge with me. Because I know that person has so much knowledge, and it's because, not to make this a sad moment, but, they left their home country to better their children, to better their family, to get a better opportunity. And you're right, that big hurdle is these board exams that I'm sure if it was 10 years earlier, they would ace it just like that. But now it's like, hey, at a later stage in life, let's go back to medical school again. So when we do our things together, our videos together, this new company we have together, it makes me happy that we're actually helping people. So that 100%. It makes me feel like huge and warm and cuddly inside when I hear that.
Yeah, it's a big deal to both of us that we've always been in alignment with what our purpose is. And I think, patient education, supporting people that are really trying to do their best to take that leg up in the world, and they're doing it through this avenue. And I would have never known about this population, that segment of the population, but because I work with you and I've dedicated a lot of, my resources and marketing and things to figuring out like, how can we best serve this population? And so as they respond and they're giving us details that I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I
know it makes you
listening to these stories. I'm like, oh my gosh, we are doing a really good thing by, figuring out what they need and being able to create content that supports what they need. And
I agree.
That's what we're dedicated to. So.
And so now I'm going to switch gears a little bit because I could talk about this all day. And I can talk about anything all day. But what I do want to talk about, because there is a medical vibe to the show, and trust me, there will be, is that, when I look at you, I see the most healthiest person in the whole world. That's what I see. You know what I mean? In fact, every time I call you, you're always riding your bike. You're actually doing some diet routine or something like, what? You make me feel like I'm not, taking care of myself. But you do have a genetic disease that I already, before we did the podcast, asked if I could talk about it. And for the people who want a medical spin, there is something out there called hereditary angioedema. And before I throw it to Cassandra so she can talk about it, let me do the little teaching spiel really quick, which is when we think about angioedema, that there are two main subtypes. When you take the word angio means vessels, edema means swelling. So you get swelling of these vessels called capillaries in the body. And, some of these capillaries could be in not so good places like the lips, the mouth, the airway, causing a lot of swelling. And it could cause a lot of problems, including the big D word, death. And when we think about angioedema, the most common type is allergic, where something triggers it, you get skin rashes. And of course, there are certain therapies we think about for this allergic type, eating steroids and Benadryl and epinephrine, but not you. and not your family. Hereditary angioedema, I hate saying it's rare when the person I'm talking to has it, but the traditional therapies we have for it won't save your life. The therapies that we have for it are very expensive, very rare, and it's hard to make a right diagnosis. It's often misdiagnosed many times until you actually have a life-threatening event. And I know you and your sister has it. So I will throw it back to you finally to say, when did you learn you have it? And can you tell me maybe a scary story about yourself or a loved one, meaning your sister or dad or mother, when they had a flare of it?
Yeah. So it actually, it derived from my dad's side. So my dad's mother, my grandmother from my dad's side is the one that was the carrier of it. And, she had 5 children. When my dad was 2.5, he was just a toddler. She had a swelling episode. Her throat began to swell. And back then it was in the 50s. It's probably like, or maybe it was like 1960 at that point.
Okay.
And so, she had to go to the neighbor's house to give her a ride. And by the time she made it to the hospital, she died. Yeah.
My God. And I didn't even know that. Yeah. And that's why I said the first presentation could be death, and that's horrible. But my God.
Absolutely. And different people have it more strong than others, even right. So my dad had started getting signs of it actually when he was 21, I believe, for the first time. And that's like a full on story. But he was in the hospital for something else. And then they realized that the more swelling was occurring. And so I think maybe he didn't know officially that it was that, but because his mom died from it and they knew that a swelling episode could occur. And so he then carried it. And then when my sister and I turned into our teens, I think I was actually like 14 when I swelled for the first time.
Now, did your dad sit you down, like when you were young, like maybe 8 or 10 years old, and say, "Hey, Cass, you have something called hereditary angioedema"?
No, actually, we didn't know. We didn't know if we did have it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So your sister didn't know, you didn't know, and your dad didn't carry official diagnosis yet.
Well, he did, but at the time they were still using like pretty simple steroids to treat it, because
we didn't know. We didn't know what to do at the time. We probably didn't have the weapons we have now.
No, absolutely not. And so when he would swell, it would be like he banged his hand and then it would swell, or
it would trigger it or something.
Or like, like maybe one of his organs was swollen or something. And we all knew that he had swollen. And so it was like, it's something that we knew that we could have, but until I started, I think my foot swelled for the first time when I was 14. And it was like my first lessons I was a diver in high school. And I was
you're a cheerleader for some reason.
I was a gymnast, and then I was a cheerleader, and then in high school I became a diver because when you're a gymnast, you're good at flipping around, so you don't have to put a lot into it in order to do a front flip off the board,
Sure.
But I started diving my freshman year, and I think it was like the summer before that. My foot swelled, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I think this might be what it was." Oh, you know what it was? I'm going to be completely honest here. I think I started at birth control. And that's what
it triggered it.
It triggered.
Oh.
And actually, I've never been able to continue on birth control. I've never been like the hormonal birth control.
Yeah, of course.
I never was able to continue with hormonal birth control because every time I did, it would cause me to swell.
So let me say 2 things for the medical part of this. So number 1, I like how you just mentioned about your dad and having some pain in the abdomen, and that many people think the swelling is only things you could see, your hands, your feet, your lips, but it happens inside. And people get misdiagnosed for things like appendicitis or cholecystitis, and it's hard to diagnose that. So it's interesting, that your dad presented that way. But also for the listeners, there are certain drugs that trigger this. And you have to be very, very careful.
You know what? And as I think about it, I was not doing anything at that point. I think I had my first episode before I even tried birth control, which I think may have been a couple years later.
Sure.
But I remember swelling for the first time in my, that 14-year-old age range.
Yeah.
And then maybe by the time I was 15 and I tried it, the birth control, that's when I swelled again.
Sure.
And then it may have triggered the second time or whatever, but I think we knew that I had it before that particular time. But then I know that I tried birth control a couple different times and it caused me to swell each time.
And just so everyone can imagine, we're not talking, oh, look at my ankle, it's a little swollen. I mean, you couldn't put your shoe on, correct? It was significant, right?
Like it's like the lines in your hand kind of like aren't there. So yeah, through the years, I've swollen, I've like my lip has swollen or like my hand swells or my foot swells. I think the last time I swelled was like a year and a half ago, and my hand had was swollen, and it started kind of going up my arm a little bit. And so I do have an EpiPen. It's called Furoscreen is the name of the drug.
You know what? I love this. Have to clarify. So it's not per se an EpiPen. You know what I mean? It's your quick relief pen because it doesn't distinguish epinephrine. So for everyone who's listening here, there are very specific proteins that Cassandra, anyone with hereditary angioedema needs to take. One of them is going to be a pooled, what we call C1 esterase, little medical jargon, or something else that's called bradykinin. And these are going to be very important things that will be proteins that help her. And what scares me to scare everyone else out there is that, Cass, if you go on an airplane and you swell, you don't have these drugs, you can die. If you go someplace, an ER is not familiar with what hereditary angioedema is, and they do load you up with steroids and epinephrine, you might die. Knowing this, beyond being diligent about carrying these very specific medications, how do you live your life day to day? And do you panic when you don't have your meds on you?
It's interesting. So my sister swells a lot more often than I do. In fact, her and my dad are like constantly, they do preventative medication where I don't swell often enough to take it every week or however many times per week.
Sure.
So it's kind of a preventative thing for them, but it's not for me. If I swell, and I decide, okay, it's getting to the point where I think it's getting worse, then if I do that pen, it'll stop the swelling. It won't swell anymore, but sometimes it takes a little while for it to go down. But also, I do believe, when we were kind of touching upon this the other day, that genes in general, our emotional genes actually are transferred too. So, I think my dad, when his mom died at such a young age, he really, he's emotional about that. And sometimes when those emotional triggers almost cause us to swell too, which sounds weird. But it's like, the last few times I swelled, it was when I was randomly with my family, because I live in Southern California and they're still in Northern California. Right. And it was like, oh, I'm at the lake with them. I haven't swollen in 2 years or whatever, or maybe a year. And now I'm with my family and I'm swelling,
And we're joking about this for everyone. Stress can definitely be a huge trigger, and nothing stresses most people out than family. They just know how to push that button all the time.
Yeah. Well, also, I was on the wave runner too, and I'm using my hand, but I've also done a lot of physical things throughout the time that don't cause me to swell. And
right.
Keeping the peace in your mind, and I do a lot of meditation pretty daily. And
I do know that.
Keeping grounded and really working on yourself that way, I think, is also beneficial. Now, it's different for everyone, and I think what you believe actually does have an effect on the amount of swelling or the frequency of swelling, or if you're really scared that you're going to swell, then that might actually become a reality too. But I am safe. I do have my pen. I bring it with me when I go places, but I'm not freaked out if I don't have it. I just know I've lifed my life out, and I know that I'm not dying from that. I'm going to die at old age.
Well, this is why I love you so much. And I would say two things. So one is that this is another reason why I think our brands, our personalities blend so well together, is because, I always try to answer it with some kind of medical answer. And I love that you always open my mind to different things. And there's very few people that can do that. I can be very stubborn. But I definitely love the way you open my mind to other things, and you tell me stories, even though you see that look on my face, "Are you serious, Cass? Are you telling me this?" But you definitely strike a chord with me in a good way. But I wanted to actually make sure, I wanted to mention a couple of things that I know your sister has it. And I want to tell everyone that your sister did me a huge favor a couple of years ago because I was I still am on the Doctor's TV show, and I do that, many times per season. And she was so nice enough to lend her story about hereditary angioedema. And when I did the episode, which was really, people loved that episode. I'm still getting, from the Hereditary Angioedema Foundation about, oh my God, we know who she is and more awareness. But she sent a picture of her lip. Right. And it was like, it's scary. I didn't even know it was your sister,
I know. It could get so blown out, like you wouldn't even recognize the person.
Yes. And, and I was going to say, after the podcast, if you guys haven't, or girls haven't know what hereditary angioedema is, go to Google and put it in and see what we're talking about. And you'd be, and then look up Cassandra and imagine like her with like swollen feet and just imagining these things.
Yeah, actually the Hereditary Angioedema Association does a lot of work, and they're the ones that, when I was like, okay, I should finally go see an allergy doctor, and they parlayed that so seamlessly for me. And so I do really love the people over there at the HAEA.
Okay. So this is going to be like, I guess I'll call it the third segment, in my mind. I'm planning to make sure we talk about the things, See, I understand what you're going through now being a host of all these people. You know what I mean? You got to keep the flow going, know what your topics are going to be. So I want to do a little transition here because I know one of the passions that I wanted to bring up is probably what you're helping out with the most. And I want to let you tell the story, not me, that before this conversation, I asked if you could tell stuff about your sister, who I actually just love more than anything. She's always been a supporter of our brand and me and helping me out on TV. But she has a very interesting story where that led to her, unfortunately, doing a little time. And I'll let you do that. And from there,
also, that parlays from her experience with hereditary angioedema. Really, to rewind a little bit. So when my sister was 21, she got in some legal trouble. She was, long story short, she was in a situation where she defended herself against someone who attacked her, and she stabbed them, and they ended up dying. And she got second-degree murder for it, and spent 10 years in prison, but was out for 5 years before she went in. Yeah. Anyways, during that time that she was in prison, her symptoms got worse. It was a very highly stressful environment.
Oh my, can't imagine.
Going back to that stress, right?
Yeah.
Highly stressful. She ended up, the one, I would say that it went from one swelling a week to 2, and then maybe to 3. And the medication, because she was incarcerated, had to be paid for by the state. And the state,
and it's not cheap.
They were paying $30,000 a month for her medication.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And so that was like a huge thing. And, we tried to get her a pardon because of the cost alone. Plus she had already been out serving 5 years, clean and sober, like not a real threat to society, but that, that's a whole other thing in itself.
No, and and I'll tell everyone, I remember when you see Cassandra, I hope you look up Cassandra on the internet. She's like the nicest person in the whole world. You're like the all-American friend that everyone wants to have, And when you told me this story, and you didn't tell me the story right away, I was down the line, my jaw dropped. I'm like, oh my God.
I remember what you said. You said, I don't
think I know anyone who knows someone that killed anyone.
I was like, you said, I don't think I ever met anybody who knows anybody in prison.
Yeah. And so, of course, the whole situation is sad, but I want everyone to know your sister's just amazing. She's getting her master's right now, right?
No, she's at UC Berkeley, and she's finishing up her undergrad there.
Yeah.
She was able to get a grant, and so she did study the correlation of the institutions used to house the mentally ill, and specifically for women, because most of the research that has been done has been primarily in the male population and the male prison population. And even though I feel like we all kind of know that, at least like she's putting her research to actually showing that is the case. And so when she was inside, I started documenting women getting out back in 2013. And so that was like, it was like the first, like it was actually her girlfriend at the time. It was one of her first girlfriends that she had in prison, but she had already been serving like maybe 5 or 6 years by then. And so I followed this woman out and I documented her and then I continued to do it. And I called the project After Orange.
And let's stop right there. I got to tell you, when you first told me about this project, the name alone is the coolest name in the whole world, because my wife and I, we love watching Orange is the New Black. You know what I mean? We're a little sad the show's done. And you told me this idea when the show was in its peak. And you're like, it's called After Orange. I'm like, how much money do you want to invest? I'll do it. And so that's just the name. It's the greatest name, but I don't want to take away from like what you're trying to convey, which is, I don't think myself or many people realize that focusing on women, focusing on being in prison, the way they're treated, and it really made me feel like, sure, I'm only basing what I know on a Netflix TV show, but the stories I heard and the medical things they're doing, I really appreciated how you try to incorporate me to take what I know about screening and health and help a very specific population that does need help. So what did you learn by seeing all these things?
Well, what happened was I continued to document these women getting out, and I realized that their biggest problem was that they didn't have a place to go. The biggest issue was the housing. So they would get out, they get a bus card. They could probably, if they don't have friends and family, which many people that get incarcerated or that serve time in Las Vegas, they don't have family around because Las Vegas brings a lot of elements to Sin City, and it brings a lot of types of people there, but those people are originally from other places. And so when they get trouble there and they're getting out and they have to get their life together, a lot of those people don't have people there, So
that makes sense, right?
One of those places that's very transient. And so what we started to see is, I would pick this person up and I'm like, they're like, well, I think I should have money on this ATM card for what I was working. And, but I don't, and there's no money on it. And so like, if I wasn't there picking them up and putting them on camera,
oh my God,
like some of them I had
food,
to
shelter, they wouldn't have the basics then.
No, I know. And so I realized, okay, I would really like to open a house and continue to document this. And so there was an opportunity. Our lawyer's best friend had a house and she was like, my husband's a veteran and he had PTSD. So she was actually getting a bigger check than what she needed. And she was willing to invest in that. And so when we opened the house, we started trying to get women inside. And because the house was not licensed, we could never really get the women directly out of prison into the home.
Of course.
And so I had to close the home and all of that stuff, which, I think we were open for like 10 months or so, and we helped.
And you had people in the house. I remember I was like, are you going to film me? Are we doing our stuff? No, Raj, I'm in the house helping out and, making it nicer and cleaner and getting resources. And I remember when you had to shut the house down, you were, I think, angry and sad at the same time and disappointed,
Yeah.
But
I was.
Where are we right now? Is the house back? Where are we right now?
But now, all the work that had gone into kind of blowing the lid off of this topic and kind of going like, hey, there's no licensed homes. And we started making really good relationships with parole and probations and the NDOC, which is the Nevada Department of Corrections, and trying to work with some of the people in the political realm there that like were seeing what we were doing. Because of course, me, I didn't just open a house. Of course, now I'm getting the local CBS investigative reporter involved.
That is so you.
Story. and because it was a big deal, nobody knew what was going on. I was like, that's at the end of the day, that's not why I did it, but it was definitely a reason to bring awareness to the fact that we needed to remedy this. And so now, like we had to, my sister ended up getting out and she really wanted to go back to California and live her life, which I totally understand. But at the time it was kind of like, oh, we need to close this thing down. And, it was very heart-wrenching for me. Anyways, a couple of years have gone by. And one of the women that I had originally documented out is on the show, Life After Lockup.
Okay.
And her and I have recently repartnered together, and we were like, you know what? Let's work to open a house and like let's just do this thing, and we'll blow the lid off of it again, and we'll create another online community. And so I went out to Vegas to put her on camera just recently, and we realized that some of the other women that had been incarcerated when my sister was inside, they were creating a nonprofit inside while I had the house open. They actually continued to do the work that I started. And we were like working together, like they were inside and I was inside, but we were, they were like my sister's homies, And so, then I ended up like partnering with them, and they're super organized. I was able to give them all the documents from my program. I created everything from scratch. And so now we're very close to, getting we were close to getting the property that we were going to use, but that kind of fell through. But our faith and our passion for this is that right now we're in the process of trying to get the property, and we have a lot of help right now. And so we're passionate. We want to get this thing up and running. And we're dedicated to getting a licensed facility up and running to get people directly out of prison.
So people can visualize it. So the way I visualize it, there is literally going to be a house, multiple rooms, and the people who are going to have access to the house are people who need help. People who are incarcerated, they leave prison, jail, whatever terminology we use. And this gives them a place to stay. I'm sure there's going to be other things that they could get access to, like getting a job and education and health. But they're going to be in one place until they hit the point where they could go on their own. So this is going to be a nice place to get
and it truly is a program.
That's great.
A program. Yeah,
it's a program. This is great.
Yeah, it's a program. It's behavioral health, oriented and certified. The partners that we're partnering up with are very organized, and they all have different unique abilities. And so one of them had been running a different home for quite some time. The other one had been he's more on the financial side of things. So they're actually creating a business model out of it. So, we're in the preliminary phases right now. And then my role is really to help them get the word out. And I'm using some of my older footage, and, this is a passion project for me, but it's also, I'm not really, an owner in the business. I just want to help them get their business off the ground and do a show around it.
So there's two pathways here. So I think there's one cool pathway, but none of it's cool getting out of jail, all the stuff they're going through, but you're going to get you're going to show to the society, public, what happens literally after Orange. I mean, here you go. Here's the money you thought you had in your ATM card. Here's what we gave you. And it's really going to be eye-opening. And that's one thing you're going to be documenting. Am I right? And that's going to be part of the visual part that, that could be the next biggest hit that we see on a platform.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm continuing to work with Brittany, and, we're hopeful that we can get this thing off the ground, but also,
I think it's going to be great.
As they come out, and they, it's very hard for some people, especially if they've been in more than even just a couple of years, some even just months at a time. It's like you getting your bearings and kind of being able to be a part of a group that you can trust. And that's like half the battle. I mean, half the battle is like they get out, they don't know where to go. And so they end up downtown with all the drug users, you know what I mean? And now they're back on.
It's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle, right? And now I'm going to tell you that, I've asked you about this already, that you're going to see me on the show you're going to produce, because tell me if I'm wrong, that there are some medical issues there, right? And we discussed 100%. It as friends all the time. When they're in prison, these are ones I just remember off the top of my head, is that they're not up to date with their screening, their healthcare maintenance. They're not screening for high blood pressure, diabetes. And when they leave, there are many, many medical as well as psychological things that are going on in these patients or in these people. People's the right word. Am I right about that? What have you 100%.
Seen? 100%. Actually, they have a medical director already lined up for the facility.
Oh,
and there's going to be a nurse 24/7 always there at the facility as well. That's their goal and plan. But in terms of you coming in and being an educator, you already know that's already been a part of the plan.
I want to do that because
that was a part of the original plan. That was like before I even opened the house.
Because number one, I think we love things that are actually wholesome and good with, and I think just helping people that go under the radar, that don't get a lot of attention that they need. And you made me aware of this, of the women's prison and what happens. It's truly like amazing in a sad way what they go through. Right. And I think where we started the conversation off is just sleep. I'm sure that the post-traumatic stress they have, going from one, a jail prison to, okay, here you are in a house. I mean, the insomnia, the stress. So I think that's one of the main things we can just intervene with, is just trying to get them sleeping again, you know?
Right. No, I know. And this isn't about like whether they did something wrong to get in there in the first place, or, if we have, as a society, even owe that to that population. It's really not about that at all. It's just, there are a lot of women, and the nonprofit actually that they created is called Women Helping Indigent People.
Oh,
the people that go through
that's great.
The people that go through that cycle, a lot of them were raised in that cycle. They don't know anything else. And so it's really going like, hey, there is another way, and we're coming from just, a good Samaritan point of view, not just, and a point of view of having someone incarcerated and knowing how the family's treated, the person is treated when you go into the facility, it's just the whole thing it could be disheartening in many ways, but also there's a lot of resources. There's a lot of education. Educating ourselves is so key and pivotal to growth and evolution in general. So, that's what this project is about. Is definitely the growth.
No, I love it. And, I got to tell you that I loved your last statement. It was a nice little closure statement before I go into my closing remarks, because that was very good. But I definitely want to catch you off guard and say that I really enjoyed this. And, when I first told a couple of my friends about, I guess I never realized how many people listen to podcasts, and my friends are like, well, to do a good podcast, you may want to consider having like a co-pilot, you know what I mean? Kind of like, and the analogy they used was kind of like, how Howard Stern is such a big name in general. And she had the coolest, best co-pilot, which was Robin.
Yeah.
I love it. I got to tell you, Cassandra, if you're okay with it, you may have to be my Robin a couple times in these podcasts.
I already am.
You already are, but I want to stay on the podcast just to let you know I am going to put you in, as I like the banter. I love your stories. Is there anything else? You always ask me this. Anything you want to, any shout outs or any websites or things you wanted to refer people to before I say goodbye?
If you want to know more about what we've produced for the Beyond the Pearls library.
I love that we're both promoting each other.
BeyondThePearls.net. But also, if you want to learn more about the After Orange project, you could go to afterorange.org. And this was really fun, and I appreciate you having me on.
Are you kidding me? And I wish there was like a video to this. I saw what you did. You did the Beyond the Pearls. You did the hand motion. And I
that's
love
my favorite part of it.
I love that. So anyways, this is not going to be the last that we have this conversation. And thanks again. And I love that I get to interview you for once, which is great.
That was great. Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Cassandra. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening. This has been a production of Ars Longa Media. Our producers are Madison Linden and Chris Brightigan. Our executive producer is Dr. Patrick Beeman. This podcast is for educational purposes only and not intended for medical advice. Ars Longa, Vita Brevis.